Oh, I can't believe I'm actually doing this right. My name is Dave Lefkowitz. Everybody calls me Lefty. I'm the president of the Mandeville Canyon Association. Thank you all for taking the time tonight to attend this Zoom briefing for the Mandeville Canyon Community Fire Hardening Initiative. Our objective tonight is simple. We're going to relate to you. We're going to describe to you the different pilot projects that we're going to be pursuing to make Mandeville Canyon safe and insurable. And then we're going to answer your questions. But before I do that, I did want to introduce a couple of participants in this project who have been essential in developing our plans and who will be, I think, an integral part of our future success. And that is Nate Witasek and Michael Evloff. Nate is an esteemed fire engineer and is working with us at the nexus of fire safety and insurability. Michael Evloff is a successful community leader and also an information technology entrepreneur. He's helping us at the nexus of firefighting and systems. And so I've asked them each to introduce themselves and to explain to us why they've been so kind in volunteering their time to help our community. Nate, why don't I go to you first and then Michael to you. Nate, please unmute and tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nate Vitasek. I started my career as a firefighter, and I really never stopped asking the question that every firefighter carries, which is, why do some buildings survive and others don't? That question took me through fire science into engineering, and today I'm a partner at Simpson, Gumpertz, and Hager, and a licensed professional engineer in about 12 states. I've spent decades investigating fires and failures around the world. Everything I know about resilience comes from studying failure. I founded Up Resilience, which is part of this program, to put that knowledge to work before the loss and not after, and not one house at a time, because fires don't respect property lines. So I really try to focus on both hardening the homes and hardening the communities around them. What we're trying to do here is put a qualified person on the property to record what's actually there and back it by an engineer's signature, back it by analysis. I can't promise what insurers will do, but I can promise you that the work will be measured, documented, and impossible to ignore. So it's a pleasure to be here.
And Nate, why is it that you're giving so generously of your time? Because all of the work that you've been doing on this, and you've dedicated dozens, maybe hundreds of person hours already. Why are you doing this on a pro bono basis for our community?
I mean, as I've told you, Lefty, this is my massive transformative purpose. I decided this years ago after one of the Malibu fires burned down a close friend's house. It affects me personally. I live in the canyons, and it's a problem. And I sat down sometime after, right around 50, and I said, you know what? I need to do something and make a difference, and I at least need to try. And that is why I'm doing this first and foremost, is because it affects me, my family, everyone I love. And fundamentally, working in the world of, buildings and communities, I know we can solve the problem. And that's what we're going to do.
Okay, Michael, please tell us about yourself and why it is you've so generously volunteered your time.
So you can hear me, yes, Lefty?
Yes.
Great. So my name is Mike Eveloff. I'm the president of Aware Neighbors, which is a nonprofit that supports communities in becoming safer. That's awareneighbors.com. I'm also the president of Responders First, which is a nonprofit that supports citywide LAPD and LAFD stations. That's respondersfirst.la. I'm the president of Friends of West LA, which supports certain schools, parks, libraries, and police and fire in West LA. And finally, in the real world, I'm a software developer. And once your site is fully up, you'll be able to see the result of some of that software development, not only in the site, but in the form of a regional wildfire outlook that, among other things, shows current conditions and projects a week out so you know if something is coming. Why am I doing this? It's fun. Lefty is so damn easy to work for. Right, Lefty?
No comment.
Okay. And then the other thing is to learn. So through this process, I've met Nate, and Nate has advanced what I'm doing with fire projection tremendously because he's an expert. So out of this, I've already gotten a peer-reviewed fire model. So that's a good start. Yes, Lefty?
So thank you both. We are the three members of the core team that's developing the pilot projects, and we'll be seeing it through. I'm now going to go through the presentation that we sent out on Thursday of last week. If you haven't been able to download it using the link from the MCA email or from WhatsApp, you can always email me at any time at info, I-N-F-O, at themca.org, themca.org, and I will answer any questions, send you copies of the presentations, whatever you need. So now I'm going to try to share my screen. Everybody can see this, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, you can't see my fingers.
Okay. The Mandeville Canyon Community Fire Hardening Initiative has two goals: make Mandeville Canyon safe and insurable. We want to make sure, in terms of safety, that we take early action so that embers don't become fires and fires don't become conflagrations. We also want to make sure that we're working with insurance companies so that we give them a reason to say yes to provide better insurance to members of our community. We're serving our community, but the fact is that when we achieve goals as part of our pilot projects, we will be creating a blueprint for communities across our city, region, and state to save lives, save properties, and save communities. And we've started, as of last Thursday, moving from planning to doing. I'm going to move very rapidly through these slides. Again, at any point in time, if you want a fuller explanation, just contact me. But we've completed the first two phases of work. In June, we raised the funds necessary to pursue these pilot projects. And he's not here tonight, but Jim McDermott, our neighbor, was essential in making sure that we raised enough funds to pursue a representative sample of pilot projects. The planning took place last month. That ended up in the presentation that you're seeing right now. We're now in the third phase of pursuing the first wave of pilot projects. And it's going to take some time. It's going to take us probably a month, the month of August, to sort of prime the pump to get moving. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of action until September, October. But in October, we'll come back to you with an update. And we'll then go through a focus phase where we push hard on those pilot projects that seem to be the most successful. And I hope that you can all reserve right now the date of September 13th. It's a Sunday from 2 to 5 p.m. The Skirball Cultural Center has agreed to host a Mandeville Canyon Insurability Conference where we'll invite experts, we'll invite insurance companies, and we'll invite elected officials to talk about what we've learned from our pilot projects and how we're going to make Mandeville Canyon safe and insurable. Every presentation has what we call a money slide. And this is the money slide of our presentation. It's going to be the bulk of my presentation to you tonight, although I am going to try to move through it very quickly. There are 4 categories of pilot projects, starting from the left: community hardening, then insurance industry, early flame detection, and brush clearance. In terms of community fire hardening, because of the funds we've raised, we are going to be able to offer every member of the Mandeville Canyon community a no-cost home hardening assessment. And that's going to be implemented by a company called All Risk Shield, one of our implementation partners in these pilot projects. And there is going to be a portal where you can sign up. We've already had, I think, 6 people sign up for the home hardening assessments. Or if you just want to send me an email at info@themca.org, I'll put you on the list and make sure you're part of the early cohort. Zone Zero is a topic that you've heard a lot about, in part because of the communications I made with you. This is not an endorsement of the Zone Zero regulations that are currently being debated within the state. but it is the recognition that maintaining the portion of our property right near our home and to make sure there's not dead and dying vegetation or anything inappropriately flammable next to our house is an important step in making sure our community and all of our homes are fire hardened. We're going to be creating education guidelines for gardeners and homeowners to make sure that they're doing the maintenance work necessary to keep their zone zero in fire hardened shape. We're also pursuing a concept that is very promising and very exciting, and that is creating fire break homes throughout our community. Hyper hardened host homes that have the supplies and the space and the technology they need in order to be sort of sentinel outposts of fire hardening, community hardening fire protection across our community. We're going to be implementing a bunch of neighborhood wildfire defense stations. I'm going to have Michael talk about that in a bit. We're working with a company that can, upon the forecast of problems, bring to our community a deployable array of sprinklers that will be fed by neighbors' pools and face out in the direction of where we are concerned that the fire may be coming from in advance of any fire happening. Citrotech is one of a number of pre-fire treatments. We think the most promising one. It's being used right now in San Diego extensively, and we are going to be pilot testing the use of this fire treatment in our community. And then later this year, we're going to announce the fact that every MCA member is going to be eligible to receive a portfolio, a basket of different free fire emergency gear. Those are our community hardening initiatives. The insurance industry initiative that I'm most excited about is the third one listed, the Fair Plan Transition Initiative. We are going to try to learn from our neighbors who right now is on the FAIR plan, and then we're going to work with third-party experts to help them understand what it is they need to do, first, to qualify for any discounts that they may be entitled to on the FAIR plan, and then in the best-case scenario, to find a way to transition to better coverage. Now, there's no guidelines for doing this. We're going to learn by doing, but we are confident that if we apply our best efforts and have a community-wide effort, that we will have some level of success. That's our hope. The early flame detection concept that seems very promising right now is a company called Sensory AI. They were founded by this teenager who created this technology that can detect flames literally at the size of a couple of inches high, miles off, and then one hopes dispatch an early fire suppression effort, because the best fires are the ones that never start. Sensory AI is right now in a partnership with the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, the MRCA. You may not know them. They're a state agency. They're also the single largest property owner in Mandeville Canyon. So protecting MRCA property is integral to protecting our homes. And through Sensory AI, the UCLA's Garrick Institute for Risk Sciences is also going to be part of our effort to implement systems that not only provide early fire detection, but dynamic fire risk assessments that we hope help make us more insurable. Lastly is brush clearance. There's lots to be done on brush clearance, but what we've learned early on in the process is that it takes a lot of effort to work with the large government agencies and the property owners that all will have a say in what brush clearance entails. And also there's something called type conversion. If you go out and you do a sort of a clear-cut brush clearance, high and tight like a Marine's haircut, but then don't have a maintenance plan to keep that maintained, what happens is what was formerly there, which was maybe a little bit fire resilient, is replaced by invasive grasses that are horribly fire prone. And you've actually made your fire risk worse. So we're not going to move forward until we have the funding and the political connections, the political agreements necessary to make sure that whatever brush clearance we do is conclusive, maintained, and additive to our community fire safety. We're going to create a bunch of goals, and we'll publicize how well we're doing versus these goals. These are our initial goals. They're likely going to change. They're part of the presentation. You can go over them, but we're going to be changing them as we learn more. We're almost done with today's presentation. The most important thing we're going to be doing is after 6 months of learning, we're going to be coming together as a community on a Sunday afternoon at the Skirball Cultural Center to hold a Mandeville Canyon Insurability conference that engages insurance industry experts, subject matter experts, and elected officials to talk about what we've learned, what looks promising, what we need to do as a canyon to become more likely to get insurance coverage, and how we intend to evolve our pilot programs and bring them to scale. We're going to be there, our community, representatives of other communities will be there. Our goal is not only to make Mandeville Canyon safe and insurable, but to create that blueprint so that other communities can benefit by what we've learned and then take these lessons learned and transplant them in their community. So what is it that we want you guys to do? Well, get informed. We sent out a couple of videos. You're here today at the Zoom briefing. Spread the word. Our biggest challenge is that the 50 of you who are here tonight are 5% of our community. There are 10 times as many people who aren't even aware that this effort is underway. We need you to be the spreaders of the good word. We need you to get out there and talk with your neighbors about what's going on and to get them involved. And if I were going to ask you guys to do 2 things right away, it would be to sign up for a no-cost home hardening assessment, no cost, no obligation. That home hardening report will be private to you. It's confidential. Nate's going to take the metadata and create a community fire resilience score. And then if you want to follow up with any of the measures that are recommended, you can either follow up with All Risk Shield, who will give you a Mandeville Canyon discount. You can do it on your own, or you can use your own vendor. And if you're on the FAIR Plan, we really do hope you sign up for the FAIR Plan Transition Initiative. This is, again, a no-cost, no-obligation initiative, but one in which we hope we can work with industry experts to help our neighbors qualify for any discounts to which they're entitled and eventually transition to other insurance coverage. All right, I promised myself I would only take 15 minutes, and I think I held true to that promise. There's lots more to talk about. There has been a wealth of work that has gone behind this, but I'm going to open up the floor right now. I'm going to ask you, please, just if you go down to the React, there's a sort of a hand, raise your hand. If you could do that, I'll take you one at a time, or you can put them in the chat. I don't see any questions in chat right now, but if you can let me know if anybody has a question. And I guess I'll offer a $2 bill to the first person who asks the first question.
There are actually a few questions in the chat, Lefty.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I can't see them.
One
Right
from
on.
David Wallace. David, do you want to repeat your question?
Thank you. And thank you for helping me. Who's ever my co-MC, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I mean, I put it in the text. I didn't want to take up everybody's time with a question. It's as I've come to appreciate, different agencies and organizations have different standards by which they rate fire readiness or fire resistance. I had a fence and gate built on my property that used lumber, which was Class A fire rated according to a classification by CAL FIRE, but that is not, reading Nate's monograph a couple of days ago, that sounded like that was not, a good idea. And then I'm recently applied for IBHS certification, and they're coming down on me like a ton of bricks with, I've got to replace the lumber within 5 feet of the structure. So even though I have stucco on the exterior, it's confusing. I'm trying to do things, I'm trying to be responsible, but getting various different inputs. I saw Nate's response. Thank you very much. I guess I'll replace that, 5 feet, from the residence and go the best way I can.
Well, yeah, and I just want to clarify, when you're talking to IBHS, you will get a very strict answer.
Yeah, clearly.
In real life, it's not so simple. but they're trying to like separate the wheat from the chaff here. So that's why they'll give you that answer. I have Ipe fences, I have Ipe decks, and haven't done anything with my Ipe decks, but I have separated my fence. And the reason I did that wasn't just because of, someone over at IBHS told me to. I did it because, I've read data going back 20 years that looks at fences. And frankly, one of my good friends, they lost their house because of a wood attachment to the house in the last fire, and they're not the only ones. So it is a real thing. But there's some nice ways to deal with it just within that close proximity. I'm also not a huge advocate of the nothing in the 5 foot zone. You come to my house, I'll show you. But I do believe in maintaining it. And I think that's what Lefty was saying. And that is important. It's just about, the stucco is inherently a really good choice. It can resist flame for anywhere from 15 to 40 minutes, depending upon the thickness. But at some point, if you have a big enough fire next to it, it could become a problem. And that's why if it's not too expensive and it doesn't, cause too much problem, that may be worth looking into when it comes to large wood connections. Decks are different. They're horizontal. Some people will say no, but I think that it does represent a different kind of risk. But again, when you're talking to insurance, they're going to take a harder, rule to that.
Okay, and there are people who are making requests of Nate in the chat, like Jillian. We'll gather those requests and we'll make sure we get that information out to you. Any other? So I now have figured out how to view the chat. If I said any month other than December for the Skirball meeting, I apologize. My wife has corrected me. It's December 13th at the Skirball. No sooner. Any other questions? Oh, Kevin, you have your hand up and I've been ignoring you. I apologize.
You always ignore me, Lefty. Listen, first of all, thank you for doing this. And it's a lot of work and it's really come together in a big way. And I feel like as your vice president and vice president of MCA, I can ask tough questions. And here's one. You talk a lot about all the positive impact that the community fire hardening initiative might deliver. But what if it doesn't? How do you see this initiative potentially succeeding or failing? And have you thought about contingency planning if you see things going sideways?
Okay, that's a good question. And of course, I think all the time about what might happen or what might not happen the way I want it to. And I'll tell you, the easy thing would be, if there's an initiative that doesn't achieve the results that we want it to, that's going to be fine. It's sort of like a portfolio, like a stock portfolio. Not every initiative maybe is going to achieve the full results, the promise that we hope that it has. Maybe not every ally that we are working with delivers the goods and we have to change horses midstream. To me, that's just management and we can manage well, I think. What's more concerning to me is our inability to engage community members. We have a canyon of about 1,000 homes. And we had 100 donors who contributed the funds that we needed to launch the pilot projects, and we're very grateful to them. But there are probably 5 times that many homeowners who've never even heard about what it is we're doing. And that lack of neighbor engagement is, I think, the #1 concern I have for rolling us forward. And so, I ask everybody all the time, if there's a way that you can communicate with your neighbors, with the people that you see at the coffee shop, with the people that you regularly email or text or WhatsApp with, let them know what's going on and try to make sure that they learn what it is they need to learn and hopefully decide to participate in these pilot projects. Kevin, our success or failure is going to be measured by how many of our neighbors get involved. I really believe that.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that. You know, we're actually getting a pretty good initial response from all kinds of parties who are vested in this, like insurance and you know, people who will help do the work, et cetera. I think this is the big killer, is that if you only have, you know, 50 homes that have done anything in the community, well, the benefit is those 50 homes will get better resilience. And we know from the data that depending upon what you do, we can see appreciable drops in ignition potential, say, let's say 70% in some cases, maybe even more, depending upon what we do. And that's actually a big, big deal. This is why we're getting a good response, I think, from these insurance companies. But again, what hurts us the most is if we can't get people excited about this in the neighborhood. And it's kind of natural because, you know, most people, they don't care if they've never been touched, or they didn't feel threatened, or they don't have a rising insurance premium, or they're not having heartburn over falling home prices. Maybe it's not a big deal to them, but these seem to be real issues for just about everyone in these mountain communities.
Okay, I put up an image that I know Michael has been working on. Michael, you want to describe to people what this is and how we intend to deploy these along the canyon? Michael?
Okay, I had to unmute myself.
Okay, good.
So one of the things that drives firefighters crazy is when they see burned houses and full pools. And a lot of the time that's because there's not an easy way to go get the water so the concept here, and working with firefighters, the concept here is a box that's available to them that has and this is a mock-up, by the way, that has a pool pump, a siphon injector, and the propane needed to run it, and a whole lot of hose. And what they would do is, and by the way, what you see there is a map of the community and where all the pools are, so that they will know ahead of time, because it's pretty likely that their internet will not be up. During the Palisades, they had no communications at all. Their radios didn't work, their cellular didn't work, nothing. So this, what they would be able to do with this is see where the pools are, take the pump, bring it back there, throw in the siphon injector, and pump water to the engine where it can do structure protection. And then they can take that to other pools based on the map. That's the concept there. This also will have a communication capability that will allow them and you an emergency internet access through a Starlink. And it's also, when it's not a disaster, it's also monitoring weather and checking the equipment to make sure it's ready to go and that the propane is fully available for them. That's the pump box. Do you want to throw up the other one, Lefty?
I'll try.
Okay.
Give me a second, sorry.
Okay.
Just while that's coming up, Michael showed me, we were looking through some pictures of the downtown Palisades area and pointing out like where the fire department was and where they could actually reach from their trucks. And it was kind of amazing how they were able to protect all the structures in this very large radius from that water source. And that's kind of the idea behind these stations, is you create dozens upon dozens of these potential nodes that make it easier for a firefighter to do the things that they need to do.
Yeah, it's a redundant water supply.
Redundant, right?
So, you know, as you know, in the Palisades, the water system failed, and they had some difficulty. This would give them an access to, how many gallons did you figure, Lefty? You added it up.
Millions. It's millions.
Yeah. So they will use it. It's being designed with them in mind, and actually, it's being designed with some of them. The other box, which you're seeing right here, ignore the AED, that won't be going in because of some regulatory issues. This one is focused on communication. So police and fire will be able to gain access to this. Inside, there are 3 Starlink minis, maybe 4, also maps so that they can take them with them where the pools are. This also is a weather station and a communication station, so that if there is a problem, if you go to one of these boxes, you will have internet. For people who want to, you will be able to point a small dish at this device and it will give you internet at your house, which we'll talk about more when we are ready to deploy it. Because it's very likely that Spectrum will not work, and it's very likely that your cell phones won't work.
And so,
and then you don't have an image, but we're also putting together AI camera detection systems and regular camera systems that will look over the canyons and notify the community and the fire department when something is seen.
That's
and
good.
so one of the things that we're trying to do with the pilot projects is to deploy prototypes of these types of assets and to document how and if or how best that they would work. And what we hope is the result of these pilot projects is sometime in 2027, a comprehensive proposal at scale to make Mandeville Canyon safe and insurable. So to set expectations, our goals in 2026 are to learn. Our goals starting in 2027 are to scale. And honestly, there are a bunch of initiatives that aren't on these slides that we're also examining. We're going to be offering training to homeowners who are bound and determined to try to defend their homes as to what the best processes are for doing that. We're going to be sending out evacuation assets so that people understand the best way. Well, the best way to evacuate is early, and the best way is to have a plan so that you're not trying to figure out in the moment what to do. You have a plan that's rehearsed and that gets you out the door safely with everything that's valuable to you. We're actually talking to a company that has early fire suppression drones that we might be able to utilize, although that's very complex and there's a lot of interagency issues with that. But in addition to the pilot projects that you've seen, we're doing a lot of analytical work, and our goal is to learn this year. And as we learn, to figure out what succeeds, what could succeed better, and how we can get it to scale. And when we figure all of that out, then we'll be going out and it's like any other new venture. When we have the plan and we think it's compelling, we'll go out and we'll raise the funds.
Good question.
Yes, go ahead, Diane.
Yes. Years ago, I've lived in the canyon since 1968. And years ago, I'm in the lower part of the upper canyon. And we used to have an active program of distributing flyers in mailboxes. And I did that for a few years from 2700 on up near the Narrows. And I know everyone uses Zoom like we're using today, but I have neighbors around me that probably are not involved in what you're wanting to do. And so even a flyer, which would be some cost, would be to send that out if possible. Of course, distributing it may be, I see you nodding your head. And even reaching you, by the way, I communicated with you about a month ago because I believe Santa Monica Conservancy owns the property across the street from me, and they did not clear. And so every year I have had to pursue working with the fire department, I think Mr. Sutton, to finally get them to clear across the street. So there are definitely issues. And so I applaud all of what you're doing. It's very, very important. But the majority of neighbors, that maybe Schultz, I saw him sign up at the upper part, the lower part of the upper canyon, has been here a long time too. But in between us, there's a lot of apathy about, being involved, communicating. And certainly that was the case at the time of the fire. So those are just a couple of thoughts.
All good thoughts, and I like the idea of the flyers. I think we have to guard against. We have to do it a couple of times and make sure that the right message is sent in the right way to spur action. And I'm not sure, working on my own, I could solve that puzzle. So I'm probably going to call on a bunch of you to help me make sure that we do this in the right way.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead,
What?
Jillian. Did you want to say something?
I had one other thing to say, because
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
somebody was talking about fences and all of that, and there's a lot of restrictions in the state of California of what you can use. Some years ago, my husband painted a fence between our house and one of our neighbors and put on 5 coats himself of fireproof paint, which is holding up quite well years later, and then put a metal trim on the top. But I have now a house that is redwood. It's completely covered the stucco, and just am learning in updating that redwood stain of what you cannot use now, and some of the base stains and so forth in the state of California, which is the way it is. But so all of those things can partake in the process of informing residents what they can do.
I think we're going to find increasingly that people are going to be encouraged to build fences with non-flammable materials, which basically means metal. Frank, I'm sorry, Jillian. Frank had his
Okay.
hand up. Do you
Sure.
mind? He's been very patient. Go
Not at
ahead,
all.
Frank.
Thank you very much, Lefty. Just to let you know, I'm a past president of the Upper Mandeville Canyon Association, having been a president back in the early 1980s, right after the floods and fire and stuff. So I just want to say the killer in all this is homeowner apathy. And one of the things that we know if we're involved in any marketing efforts is you have to say something 7 times for people to hear it once. So I would suggest that that all these activities are amazingly brilliant and very likely to be very, very helpful to many of us. This is my 52nd year in the canyon, so I'd like to cautiously suggest that you send out periodic reminders. You can do it by email, you can do it by flyers, you can do it any way you like, but I think that periodic refreshers would be very, very helpful in order to help stir up interest. After the Palisades fire, I seriously considered moving after 51 years in the canyon, and I finally decided, no, this is my home, this is where I want to be. So that's my suggestion. And I'm
Okay.
happy to help out if you like.
I certainly will be calling on you, Frank. That is a kind offer, and we'll take you up on it. All right,
Thank you.
Jillian, you've waited patiently. Now it's you.
John and Terry Kahn, who preceded you, and even before that, we ran a couple of fire drills. I don't know that we have any data, whether that changed attitudes or not, but I just wanted to put it out there. And in terms of, it is very hard to come up against people's, I'm not sure if it's apathy, I'm not sure if it's denial, I'm not sure if it's quote unquote busyness or feeling like there's no point. I do think that the fact that this plan you're making is so specific and has such a real goals and is tied into financial positive outcomes and like actionable items is very positive. And so if we can get that out, I think it will be helpful. The other piece is John has worked a lot, as have Riley. I don't know if Riley's on the call tonight, and Billy and the rest of the Upper Mandeville Canyon Safety Committee on dealing with the other part of safety that I don't know if it would be in this agenda, but is the evacuation strategy. That's key to make sure that the roadways have room for people to evacuate when they choose to evacuate. So just wanted to put that on the table.
And we're working a lot on evacuation. Let me tell you, there is, I got you, John, you're going to be next. There is no way that if people wait to see the flames that we can evacuate 1,000 homeowners from Mandeville Canyon.
Right.
And so what we're going to be working on is the ways that people can take as their cue an earlier warning and better organization to get out sooner. Now, this is a very divisive issue, but there are no fire roads. There are no helicopters landing. There's nothing that will be a substitute for an early evacuation. And we've just got to make that the new ethic that we rehearse. Rehearsing a canyon-wide evacuation all at once is not something we want to do. One, it's too darn expensive. The fire department can't spare those resources. And two, it's not the winning strategy. The winning strategy is to go early. While John talks, I'm just going to put up, someone asked, what are the pilot projects? And this is the slide that talks about the pilot projects. John, why don't you talk with that as your background, please, unless that's too distracting to you.
We've had a few Is there a sound problem?
There is. I don't know why.
Beg your pardon. We've had a few evacuation drills up here. A couple of them were mandatory, and there's some observations I would make on one of the evacuation drills. I had an emergency. Somebody had a problem up here, and I stayed because I could see where the smoke was going, and it wasn't coming up here. But I stayed for a while, and then when I went out, I realized that within about 25 minutes, the whole canyon had been evacuated. At least that is everybody who wanted to go. There was nobody on the road after about 25 minutes. So that's just an interesting thing to know. The second thing that I tried for years to get the fire department to do, and or the police department to do, and they always said, "Oh, we have that," and that is that if there's a fire here, the Sunset Boulevard should be shut off at Allen Ford. In the last mandatory evacuation, I was down the hill and I drove home while everybody was evacuating, and then I turned around and came back in a few minutes. But there was Mandeville Canyon was backed up over a half a mile because nobody could get out onto Sunset because people were fleeing the Palisades.
Right.
That's an and so if the fire, which did make the up to Westridge, if the fire had come down into lower Mandeville Canyon, we would have had many people burned up in their cars in the fire. And I think that's one of the first things that should be
I
dealt
was
with.
talking about.
I've never got a proper response. They always just brushed me off. But I actually saw this happen, so that's a very significant thing. And a third thing I agree is early evacuation is the big answer. And I also think if a fire gets down in the canyon where the dense number of trees are, people trying to save their home themselves are making a mistake.
Right. So you piled a lot in there. We agree that we're not encouraging anybody to stay behind. That's
Good.
we think not a wise play. It will take a lot longer than 25 minutes for people to evacuate the canyon. When we live towards the bottom of Mandeville Canyon, and in the Palisades fire, where all the factors were in our favor, it was during the daytime, the communication systems were up, people were motivated to leave. There was a backup in front of our house that lasted hours. Okay, not
Right.
minutes.
That's the danger. And all they have to do is keep traffic off of Sunset. Everybody tries to get to the 405. And if they
Okay.
were sent south
John, to say all they have to do, that is a gigantic ask. That is the coordination of many different
I
communities.
disagree because they dispatch motorcycle cops everywhere. We've had 3 of them up here in the last evacuation. So there are enough motorcycle cops to send traffic below Sunset, and then they go to the valley by way of Pico or whatnot. If that isn't done, and if a fire ever reaches the lower canyon, you know what'll happen.
Okay, John, we'll talk about this later. Evacuation is a very contentious subject. Let's go back to the pilot projects. That's not actually one of the pilot projects. It's a real issue, and I get it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Questions, concerns? I see a lot of requests, a lot of people volunteering to help get the word out. I very much appreciate that. We will absolutely Look for your help when the time comes. It will probably be in the fall, September, October, when we've learned a little bit more from the pilot programs. If you remember the slide that talked about the different phases of work, when we go to the next phase where we start to expand the pilot programs that seem positive in October, that's probably when we'll get the word out a little bit more. Someone talked about any words on homeowners getting pool pumps for the firefighters. One of the things that we were concerned about is a pool pump is no good if it isn't maintained. And so the thought of asking hundreds of homeowners, we've actually identified all the pools in Mandeville Canyon. There are, according to the assessor record, 650 of them in Mandeville Canyon. We know where they are. We're going to ask people to sign up their pool to make sure that they are volunteering the information that firefighters need to know about where they're located. But we're going to find a way to distribute pool pumps across the community immediately available to firefighters so that they don't have to worry about whether or not a homeowner has a pool pump or not. They're going to be pool pumps staged strategically throughout the canyon so that a firefighter knows, hey, this is where the pool pump is. It has all the hardware. It has all the hose. It has all the fuel. All I got to do is put it down and we're rocking. And then we've got to work with firefighters, including putting maps in the boxes that Michael was showing earlier, because the firefighters who fight the fire, they aren't from Station 19 around the corner. If you remember in the Palisades, we had firefighters from 20-something states and several different countries here. We need to give them the information in an easy-to-use form so that they understand where these pumps are. And homeowners agree to put some type of reflecting signal, reflecting marker, and some painted marker on the road or on the curb, so that firefighters know going past, that's a pool that's signed up and their water is available to me. There's lots of other things we're talking about. There's these huge water storage devices that we're going to be talking about locating strategically on properties throughout the community too. But that's definitely not a 2026 pilot project. That's a 2027 pilot project and beyond. What about the mailboxes? Can we put a reflective sign on the mailboxes with the pools? That's one of the things we're absolutely looking to do. We've got to work with the LAFD to make sure that it's a protocol that they buy into, but we're absolutely going to do something like that. Absolutely. Any other questions or concern? A blue reflector dot? Yep, something just like that. Something just like that. Nate, before we leave today, are there any last words of wisdom that you want to make for the crowd about these pilot projects and about what we're trying to do in Mandeville Canyon?
I guess, and Lefty, you know this from working with me. We like challenges. We like it when people bring up the problems. This is not a simple problem. If it was a simple problem, we wouldn't be seeing this all around the world right now. So if anyone has a point of view or they see a hole in what we're doing, let us know. We do not have perfect knowledge, but we have the ability to put everything together in a way, and we will figure this out. I always think back to I think back to this question that people sometimes ask, which is, why is it that our cities don't burn down these days when they used to throughout history? And the answer is pretty straightforward. We made changes in terms of our preparedness. We added in automatic features. We hardened passive features. We looked at the relationship between the buildings in the cities. And guess what? It changed the world when we did that in an urban context. We simply have to do the same thing for this context where we have these homes in these communities on these hillsides. So that said, there are issues and challenges that we will need to work through. And anytime someone challenges what we're doing, I actually think it helps. So I personally welcome that and actually really ask that if anyone has a good idea, please bring it to us. We will evaluate it and we will work with you. So thank you.
I was on a UCLA webinar today with insurance industry and fire experts and stuff like that, talking about where should we make our investments in fighting wildfires. And the chief scientist for, it was, I think, Liberty Mutual, talked about how if you are just thinking that what you're going to do is harden your property and you'll be safe, you're missing the point. And she was adamant about how communities are going to have to get together to implement measures on a community-wide basis in order to create true fire hardening and true insurability. And I thought, since she was the top scientist for an insurance company, she had a perspective worth listening to. Let me tell you what is going to happen after this Zoom call tonight. I'm going to summarize what I thought were the most commonly asked and most important questions, and I'll be putting out an FAQ probably on Friday and making available to our neighbors a link for this recording. Second of all, I'm going to ask everybody, if they do nothing else, please consider signing up for the no cost, no obligation confidential home hardening assessment and the Fair Plan Transition Initiative, no cost, no obligation, if that is relevant, if you're on the Fair Plan. And then third, I've gotten a lot of offers in this Zoom for people who want to help design and hand out flyers. I'm going to take you guys up on that. We're going to figure out what it is we want to say, how often we want to do it, how we get the word out, and then we're going to do that. There are some other things that are percolating in the background. The next time you're going to hear from me in this type of organized setting is in October, when we do the phase 1 pilot project update, and then announce which ones we're going to focus on moving forward for the rest of the year. And although I know some people are concerned about the December 13th date being a little bit close to the holidays, we think it's going to be a great way to cap the year at the Skirball Cultural Center, December 13th, 2 to 5 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. Please, the portal, we think we're going to sell out. It's going to accommodate, I think, 350 people. We think we're going to sell out. So when the portal opens to register to attend on in mid to late September, we'll announce that. We hope you take advantage of the opportunity to attend that, where insurance industry experts, content experts, and elected officials get together to talk about how we can make Mandeville Canyon safe and insurable. So I want to thank you very much for coming tonight. And please, I'll put it one more time in the chat. If you ever have any questions, concerns, or requests, contact me at info@themca.org. I think everybody will tell you. I'll give you a quick response morning, noon, and night. So thank you very much. We're going to stop the recording now. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was incredible.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lefty.
Thank you.